For decades, East Asia dazzled the world with its economic growth, transforming once war-torn cities into global powerhouses of innovation and commerce. Skyscrapers rose, technology flourished, and millions were lifted out of poverty, creating a sense of optimism that seemed unshakable. The region became synonymous with rapid modernization, global trade, and technological leadership, setting the pace for the rest of the world. But beneath the prosperity, old rivalries and new ambitions have been simmering, quietly shaping the region's future. Diplomatic handshakes often mask deep-seated mistrust, and every negotiation is shadowed by the weight of history. The legacy of unresolved territorial disputes, colonial-era grievances and ideological divides continues to influence the calculus of today's leaders. The year is 2025, and the region is now defined by escalating tension and a dramatic arms race. Borders are more than lines on a map, they are flashpoints, bristling with military hardware and uncertainty. Disputed islands, contested airspace and ambiguous boundaries have become focal points for national pride and strategic maneuvering. Nations are pouring resources into their militaries, responding to a shifting balance of power led by China's rapid rise. Defense budgets soar as governments race to develop cutting-edge technology and modernize their forces. The competition extends beyond traditional arms, encompassing cyber capabilities, space assets, and artificial intelligence. Fighter jets roar overhead, naval fleets patrol contested waters, and alliances are being reshaped at a dizzying pace. The region's skies and seas have become arenas for both deterrence and demonstration. Each military exercise, each patrol is a message, sometimes a warning, sometimes a reassurance, to both friends and rivals. The ghosts of past conflicts linger, now joined by fears of the future. Memories of war are never far away, influencing leaders and citizens alike as they navigate an uncertain present. National narratives, shaped by history textbooks and public commemorations, fuel both suspicion and resolve. A single miscalculation could ignite a conflict with global consequences. The margin for error is razor-thin, and the stakes have never been higher. The complexity of modern warfare, with its speed and unpredictability, leaves little room for diplomatic recovery once a crisis begins. Countries are forming new partnerships, seeking security in numbers as the stakes rise. Old enemies find themselves as uneasy allies, united by shared concerns over regional stability. The emergence of new security pacts and trilateral dialogues reflects a rapidly evolving diplomatic landscape. The arteries of global trade and the technologies powering our lives depend on stability here. Disruption in East Asia would send shockwaves through supply chains, economies, and daily life around the world. From semiconductors to rare earth minerals, the region's output is vital to the functioning of the global economy. What happens in East Asia reverberates worldwide. Markets react instantly, and political decisions made here can alter the course of nations far beyond the region. Investors, governments, and ordinary citizens everywhere are acutely aware of the stakes. The peace that has underpinned global prosperity is more fragile than ever. Uncertainty hangs in the air, and the world watches with bated breath. The interconnectedness of today's world means that even a localized crisis could have far-reaching consequences. Historical animosities, technological dependencies, and military might have created a volatile mix. The intersection of past grievances and future ambitions is a dangerous crossroads. Cybersecurity, economic espionage, and information warfare add new layers of complexity to an already fraught environment. The world must pay close attention to this gathering storm. Decisions made in the coming months and years will shape not just the region, but the entire global order. The international community faces a critical test. Can it help manage these tensions, or will it be swept up in their consequences? The fate of the 21st century may be decided in the seas and skies of East Asia, where the balance between peace and conflict hangs in the balance. As the world watches, the choices made here will echo for generations to come. The relationship between Japan and South Korea has been shaped by a turbulent past. From 1910 to 1945, Korea endured harsh colonial rule under Japan, leaving deep scars and unresolved grievances that persist to this day. Even after the 1965 normalization of relations, mistrust and political disputes over issues like wartime labor, comfort women and territorial claims kept these US allies at odds, undermining cooperation for decades. But the rise of China as a regional power and North Korea's escalating provocations have forced both countries to reconsider their priorities, ushering in a new era of pragmatism. In recent years, encouraged by the US, Tokyo and Seoul have taken concrete steps to strengthen security ties, reviving intelligence-sharing agreements, conducting joint military exercises, and holding trilateral summits with Washington. This fragile partnership is driven not only by shared democratic values and the logic of mutual support, but also by a recognition that unity is essential in the face of common threats. A generational shift is also underway. Younger citizens, less burdened by historical animosities, are embracing cultural exchange and seeing each other as partners in a rapidly changing world. The alliance remains delicate, with old wounds never far from the surface, but it marks a major realignment in East Asia, one that is being tested and strengthened by new realities. Shared threats and practical cooperation are forging new bonds, turning former adversaries into strategic partners on multiple fronts. This rapprochement, built on both hard lessons from history and urgent new challenges, stands as one of the region's most significant and closely watched changes. China's transformation from economic giant to military powerhouse is reshaping East Asia in profound ways. The People's Liberation Army is now a high-tech force, integrating artificial intelligence, cyber warfare and space-based assets to challenge US dominance in the Pacific. China's military budget, second only to the US, is fueling rapid modernization, especially in its navy, now the world's largest by ship count. Amphibious capabilities and carrier strike groups are central to its regional strategy. China is expanding its nuclear arsenal and developing advanced hypersonic missiles, anti-satellite weapons, and robust cyber capabilities, aiming to neutralize adversaries' technological advantages. These advancements support a broader strategy, enforce territorial claims, especially over Taiwan and the South China Sea, through a mix of military pressure, grey zone tactics and information operations, all to become Asia's preeminent power. This ambition directly challenges the US-led order that has defined the region for decades, increasing the risk of miscalculation and confrontation. For neighbours like Japan, South Korea and the Philippines, China's military presence and assertive strategies are a daily reality, prompting new alliances and defence initiatives. The region's strategic calculus is being rewritten as nations adapt to China's technological advancements and evolving military strategies, reshaping the future of East Asia. Taiwan, just 160 kilometres from China, stands as the world's most dangerous geopolitical flashpoint. But it is not alone in East Asia. Beijing sees Taiwan as a breakaway province, while Taiwan's 24 million people see themselves as a sovereign democracy. Meanwhile, territorial disputes simmer between China and its neighbours, from the South China Sea to the East China Sea. The US walks a tightrope, supporting Taiwan's defence while maintaining alliances with Japan and South Korea, all while avoiding direct confrontation with China and North Korea. China's military drills around Taiwan are growing more aggressive, and North Korea's provocations add another layer of volatility, raising the risk of multiple flashpoints igniting at once. Any war in this region could draw in the US and its allies with devastating global consequences, disrupting trade, destabilizing economies and threatening peace far beyond Asia. Taiwan's fate is a test of the international order and the struggle between democracy and authoritarianism, but so too are the disputes in the South and East China Seas. The world watches as tensions mount across East Asia, knowing a single spark, whether in Taiwan, the Korean Peninsula or the South China Sea, could reshape the century. Taiwan is more than an island. It's a symbol, and together with other East Asian flashpoints, a potential trigger for global conflict and transformation. In today's world, the most powerful weapons aren't missiles or tanks, they're microchips. These tiny pieces of silicon are the true engines of modern warfare, embedded at the heart of every advanced military system, from the targeting computers in fighter jets and drones, to encrypted battlefield communications, missile guidance, and cyber defense networks. Microchips are the invisible force that determines who holds the technological edge. Taiwan's dominance in advanced semiconductor manufacturing, especially through TSMC, gives it a unique silicon shield. This shield is not just economic, but also strategic, making Taiwan a linchpin in the global tech ecosystem. The ability to produce the world's most sophisticated chips means that Taiwan holds a critical position in the supply chain for both civilian and military technologies. Over 90% of the world's most advanced chips are made here, powering everything from smartphones and laptops to critical military systems and infrastructure worldwide. Modern tanks, aircraft, satellites, and even nuclear command systems rely on these chips for their speed, precision, and security. A conflict in the Taiwan Strait would instantly disrupt this supply, crippling industries, halting production lines, and triggering a global economic crisis that would ripple through every sector. The military implications are just as severe. Nations could find their defense capabilities suddenly paralyzed by a lack of critical components. The economic fallout would be catastrophic, with losses in the trillions. Stock markets would plunge, and the world's supply chains could grind to a halt. The inability to access advanced chips would undermine not only commercial technology, but also national security. China is racing to build its own chip industry, investing billions to end its dependence on Taiwan and secure its own technological future. The stakes are high. Whoever controls the flow of microchips controls the future of warfare, economic growth, and even political influence. But Taiwan's foundries remain a strategic prize and a major risk. The world watches closely, knowing the stakes couldn't be higher. Any disruption could tip the balance of power, not just in East Asia, but globally. The island's technological importance is both a deterrent and a target, drawing the attention of global powers and military strategists alike. Protecting these facilities has become a matter of national and international security. The Silicon Shield makes Taiwan central to the world's technological and military competition, shaping the balance of power in the 21st century. The race for microchip supremacy is now a defining feature of global geopolitics. The fate of microchips is now inseparable from the fate of global security, making their protection a top priority for nations everywhere. In the new era of warfare, the battle for silicon may prove just as decisive as any fought with steel. Since 1945, the United States has anchored East Asia's security landscape, acting as the region's primary guarantor of peace and stability. Through a vast network of alliances, forward-deployed military forces, and a web of security agreements, the US has sought to deter adversaries and reassure allies. Its strategic interests in East Asia are multifaceted, ranging from maintaining open sea lanes and protecting trade routes to upholding international norms and countering the influence of rival powers, particularly China and North Korea. Today, Washington is intensifying efforts to foster deeper cooperation between Japan and South Korea, recognizing that a united front is essential to counter China's growing assertiveness and North Korea's unpredictable provocations. Trilateral diplomacy has become a cornerstone of US strategy as the region faces increasingly complex security challenges. The US military commitment is formidable. Bases in Japan, South Korea and Guam, along with rotational deployments and joint exercises, ensure rapid response capabilities across the region. Forces stationed in Okinawa and beyond form the backbone of regional defense, ready to respond to crises from the Korean Peninsula to the Taiwan Strait. This visible presence not only reassures allies, but also signals American resolve to adversaries. However, the US presence is not without controversy. Local communities, especially in Okinawa, often bear the brunt of social and environmental impacts from hosting foreign troops. Protests and calls for base reductions are frequent, highlighting the delicate balance between strategic necessity and local sentiment. Diplomatically, the US faces challenges both at home and abroad. Allies worry about the durability of America's commitments, especially as domestic debates over the costs and benefits of overseas deployments intensify. Shifting US political winds and questions about reliability add further uncertainty to alliance management. In response to these uncertainties, Japan and South Korea are investing heavily in their own defense capabilities, modernizing their militaries, acquiring advanced technology and expanding joint training. They seek to bolster deterrence and prepare for an unpredictable future, even as they continue to rely on US support. The US must navigate a complex diplomatic landscape, maintaining strong alliances, addressing local grievances, and adapting to shifting regional dynamics. Balancing strategic imperatives with the burdens and responsibilities of its role is an ongoing challenge. As military encounters with China become more frequent and tensions escalate, America's role as a stabilizing force is under increasing scrutiny. Every maneuver is closely watched by both allies and rivals, raising the stakes for miscalculation. The future of the Indo-Pacific will depend on how effectively the US can balance deterrence, diplomacy, and adaptation to new realities, while safeguarding its strategic interests and honoring its commitments. The stakes for regional and global security could not be higher. Decisions made today by the US and its allies will shape the peace, prosperity, and stability of East Asia for generations to come. For military strategists, Okinawa is a linchpin. Its location places it at the heart of East Asia's security architecture. The island hosts 70% of all US military facilities in Japan, making it a crucial outpost for rapid deployment and deterrence, especially amid rising tensions in the Taiwan Strait and the broader region. But for Okinawans, this strategic importance comes at a steep price. The daily reality is one of disruption. The roar of fighter jets overhead, the rumble of military convoys through city streets, and the ever-present sense of vulnerability. Families cover their ears as aircraft thunder by, and children pause their games as helicopters sweep low. The island's traumatic history, devastated during World War II, has left deep scars. Many Okinawans embrace pacifism, haunted by memories of conflict and loss. This fuels a powerful anti-war sentiment, visible in rallies, memorials, and the quiet determination of those who remember the past. For many locals, the US bases are not just a symbol of protection, but also of risk. There is a widespread belief that Okinawa, so close to Taiwan and other flashpoints, could become a target in any future conflict. Recent military build-ups, including new missile installations and increased troop movements, have only heightened these anxieties. The presence of the bases disrupts daily life in countless ways. Traffic jams caused by convoys, restricted fishing zones, and the constant tension between local needs and national security priorities. Many Okinawans feel their voices are ignored by Tokyo, their concerns outweighed by the demands of geopolitics. Yet the people of Okinawa continue to speak out. Protests, community meetings, and appeals to government officials reflect a population determined to be heard. Local representatives argue for a reduction in the military footprint, seeking a balance between security and the well-being of their communities. Ultimately, Okinawans find themselves on the front line of a struggle they did not choose, bearing the costs of global strategy. Their perspective is a stark reminder. Behind every military calculation are real communities, families, children, elders, living with the consequences and hoping for a future shaped by peace, not conflict. While China grabs headlines, North Korea remains a constant threat for Japan and South Korea, not just through its rhetoric, but through a rapidly advancing military arsenal. Decades after the Korean War, the North's nuclear and missile programs have evolved dramatically, keeping the peninsula on edge. North Korea now boasts intercontinental ballistic missiles, submarine-launched systems, and a growing stockpile of nuclear warheads, capabilities that threaten not only Seoul and Tokyo, but potentially the US mainland. Politically, Pyongyang leverages these weapons as bargaining chips, using brinkmanship and sudden provocations to extract concessions or attention from the international community. This unpredictable strategy forces South Korea to maintain a high state of readiness, fueling the growth of a formidable defense industry and accelerating the shift toward preemptive strike capabilities. Japan, too, has ramped up its missile defences and military cooperation with the US, wary of North Korea's reach and unpredictability. North Korea's actions forced Japan and South Korea to split focus, complicating their response to China and straining regional alliances. Any instability could spiral into wider conflict, drawing in China and the US, both of whom have vital interests in the region. The North's provocations keep the region on high alert, fueling further armament and alliance building as neighbours seek to counterbalance Pyongyang's growing power. The shadow of Pyongyang is long, dark, and impossible to ignore. Its military capabilities, political manoeuvres, and regional impact shaping the security landscape of East Asia. East Asia's peace is fragile, held together by a tense balance of power. But this is not just a regional concern. What happens here reverberates across the globe. The region's sea lanes and ports are the arteries of global trade and technology, connecting continents and fueling economies far beyond its shores. A conflict here would not only sever supply chains, but also send shockwaves through financial markets, disrupt manufacturing worldwide, and halt technological progress for millions. The risk of nuclear escalation is real, and the web of alliances means that any confrontation could quickly draw in nations from every corner of the world. Preserving peace in East Asia is not just a regional priority, it is a global imperative. It demands vigilance, diplomacy, and unwavering commitment from all nations, regardless of distance or politics. The prosperity and security of billions depend on stability here. From the food on our tables to the technology in our hands, the ripple effects of East Asian security touch every life. The ticking clock in East Asia is a warning for all humanity, a reminder that the world is more interconnected than ever before. We must pay attention, act together, and recognize that the stakes could not be higher for East Asia and for the world. As the great powers jostle for influence in East Asia, a quieter but critical player navigates the shifting tides. ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, Comprising 10 diverse countries, ASEAN sits at the crossroads of regional security, trade and diplomacy. Its unique position allows it to act as a bridge between competing interests, fostering dialogue and cooperation. In the face of growing military build-ups and tightening alliances, ASEAN nations have responded with a mix of caution and pragmatism. The bloc has prioritized diplomatic engagement, using its platform to encourage peaceful resolutions and open communication among regional actors. Some member states have strengthened defense ties with the United States, participating in joint military exercises and intelligence sharing to bolster their security. Others have sought deeper economic relationships with China, recognizing the importance of economic stability and growth for regional security. Yet, unity remains the bloc's guiding principle. ASEAN's commitment to consensus ensures that even as members pursue different strategies, they present a collective front on key security issues. Through forums such as the ASEAN Regional Forum and the East Asia Summit, ASEAN leads diplomatic efforts to reduce tensions, promote communication, and prevent miscalculations between rival powers. Despite limited military power, ASEAN leverages its unique position to mediate disputes and champion peaceful solutions. The bloc has played a key role in facilitating dialogue on contentious issues like the South China Sea, advocating for the peaceful settlement of disputes in accordance with international law. In recent years, ASEAN has also explored collective defence strategies, such as the ASEAN Defence Ministers Meeting Plus, which brings together regional and external partners to enhance security cooperation, conduct joint exercises and build trust. Its members know that instability in East Asia would ripple throughout Southeast Asia, disrupting economies, endangering sea routes and threatening millions of lives. By balancing relationships, advocating for dialogue and strengthening collective defence mechanisms, ASEAN strives to keep the peace, reminding the world that security in East Asia is not just a matter for the major powers, but a shared responsibility for the entire region. Beneath the surface of East Asia's visible tensions, a far more elusive conflict is unfolding, one that rarely makes headlines yet shapes the fate of nations every day. This is the invisible battlefield of cyber warfare, espionage and information warfare, where the weapons are lines of code, stolen secrets and manipulated narratives, not tanks or ships. Cyber warfare has become a front line in the contest for regional dominance, as nations race to secure critical infrastructure, disrupt rivals and assert their influence in the digital realm. Major players, including China, the United States, Japan and South Korea, have all invested heavily in cyber capabilities, building vast digital arsenals and specialized teams to defend and attack. State-sponsored hackers probe defenses, steal sensitive data, and test the resilience of power grids and communication networks, sometimes leaving entire cities vulnerable to blackouts or chaos. Meanwhile, intelligence agencies wage a silent struggle for information, targeting not only military secrets and diplomatic strategies, but also the personal data of millions and the flow of information itself. The designs of microchips, the blueprints of advanced weapons, and the algorithms that drive artificial intelligence are all coveted prizes in this shadow war. A single cyber attack could cripple financial systems, disrupt military operations, or sow chaos among civilian populations, turning the digital world into a new front line. As alliances deepen and rivalries sharpen, the risk of escalation in cyberspace grows ever more real, with each side seeking to outmaneuver the other through both offense and defense. In this shadowy domain, attribution is difficult and retaliation can be unpredictable, making every move fraught with uncertainty. Nations walk a fine line, balancing offensive capabilities with the need for restraint, knowing that a miscalculation could trigger a wider conflict. In East Asia, where the margin for error is slim, The race for technological supremacy, intelligence dominance and control over information is as crucial as any arms build-up. The invisible battlefield, spanning cyber warfare, espionage and information manipulation, now shapes the balance of power in ways that are both profound and unseen, with consequences that could reverberate across the globe. While military might and technological prowess capture headlines, another force quietly shapes the fate of East Asia: economic interdependence. The economies of China, Japan, South Korea and their neighbours are deeply intertwined, with billions of dollars in goods, services and investment flowing across borders every day. This web of trade has lifted millions out of poverty and fueled rapid modernization. But it also creates vulnerabilities. Sanctions, tariffs and export controls have become powerful tools in the region's strategic arsenal. When tensions rise, leaders wield economic leverage to punish rivals or secure concessions, targeting everything from high-tech components to agricultural products. Yet these measures come at a cost. Disrupted supply chains and retaliatory actions can ripple through global markets, impacting businesses and consumers far beyond Asia's shores. Despite the risks, cooperation endures. Regional trade agreements and joint ventures reflect a shared interest in stability and prosperity. But beneath the surface, competition for resources, technology and market dominance never truly disappears. In East Asia, the delicate balance between economic cooperation and rivalry is an invisible thread, binding nations together, even as it threatens to pull them apart. Historically, trade has always been a cornerstone of East Asian prosperity, from the ancient Silk Road to modern-day shipping lanes. Today, digital trade and fintech innovations are reshaping the landscape, creating new opportunities and challenges. As the region looks to the future, sustainable development and green technology are becoming key areas of focus, promising to redefine economic interdependence in the years to come. As the security landscape of East Asia evolves, the influence of regional players beyond its borders is becoming increasingly significant. The emergence of Australia and India as new anchors in regional security marks a pivotal shift in the balance of power and the architecture of alliances. Australia and India, once considered peripheral to East Asia's core disputes, are now at the forefront of shaping the region's security frameworks. Their strategic partnerships are not only redefining alliances, but also introducing new dynamics into the regional order. Australia, a long-standing US ally, has deepened its engagement with both Japan and South Korea, participating in joint military exercises and intelligence sharing. These collaborations enhance interoperability and signal a united front against potential threats, particularly in the maritime domain. With its strategic location bridging the Indian and Pacific Oceans and its advanced naval capabilities, Australia is uniquely positioned to safeguard vital sea lanes and deter aggression. Its investments in naval modernization and regional presence underscore its commitment to collective security. India, meanwhile, brings its own weight to the table, leveraging its growing military strength and diplomatic reach to influence regional security. As the world's largest democracy and a rising economic power, India has expanded its military and diplomatic ties with East Asian nations. Its outreach includes joint naval exercises, defence dialogues and high-level visits, all aimed at fostering stability and counterbalancing regional hegemonies. India's participation in the Quad, a security dialogue involving the US, Japan and Australia, reflects a shared interest in a free and open Indo-Pacific. The Quad's joint initiatives, from maritime security to infrastructure development, demonstrate the growing strategic convergence among these democracies. Both Australia and India have also increased their involvement in regional infrastructure projects and technology partnerships, offering credible alternatives to China's Belt and Road Initiative. These efforts not only promote sustainable development, but also strengthen their influence across the Indo-Pacific. By diversifying security and economic relationships, Australia and India are helping to build a more resilient and interconnected regional order, one that extends beyond traditional East Asian boundaries and is less vulnerable to coercion. Their growing presence and strategic partnerships underscore a crucial reality. In the complex chessboard of East Asian security, the moves of outside powers like Australia and India can be just as pivotal as those made within the region itself. Their roles as new anchors are shaping the future of regional stability and cooperation. In the high-stakes arena of East Asian security, it's not just governments and militaries making moves behind closed doors. The influence of public opinion and media narratives has become a force that can no longer be ignored. Today, public opinion and media narratives are increasingly powerful actors in their own right, shaping the very foundation of policy and diplomacy across the region. Across Japan, South Korea, China and beyond, mainstream and social media shape how citizens view neighbouring countries, alliances and threats. These perceptions, in turn, create a climate in which leaders must operate, sometimes with little room for manoeuvre. National identity, historical grievances and economic anxieties all colour the stories told on television screens and digital feeds, influencing how the public interprets diplomatic moves and military posturing. In some cases, heightened rhetoric in the media can push leaders toward more assertive policies as they respond to a public demanding strength and resolve. Public pressure, fueled by media coverage, can demand a strong stance on territorial disputes or military spending, making compromise politically risky. In other moments, calls for diplomacy and peace movements gain traction, with media amplifying voices that urge negotiation and regional engagement, sometimes shifting the policy agenda toward dialogue. Governments, too, are acutely aware of the power of perception, and often act strategically to shape it. State-run outlets and official statements frequently seek to guide public sentiment, framing events in ways that support government objectives and legitimize policy choices. Meanwhile, independent journalists and online commentators provide alternative perspectives, sometimes amplifying tensions, sometimes urging restraint, and often holding officials accountable in the public eye. The diversity of voices in the media landscape means that narratives can both escalate and de-escalate regional tensions, depending on which stories gain traction. The result is a dynamic feedback loop. Media narratives influence public opinion, which in turn shapes policy decisions, fueling further coverage and debate. Policymakers closely monitor social media trends and opinion polls, adjusting their strategies to align with or respond to the prevailing mood of the public. Newsrooms and journalists, aware of their influence, debate how best to cover sensitive issues, knowing their choices can sway both public sentiment and diplomatic outcomes. In an era where information spreads instantly and misinformation can escalate crises, the stakes for responsible reporting and informed public debate have never been higher. Understanding the landscape of public opinion is now essential for grasping the direction of East Asia's future, both for policymakers and for those seeking to influence them. Ultimately, the battle for hearts and minds is as consequential as any military maneuver, with the power to shape alliances, rivalries, and the prospects for peace. As narratives evolve and public sentiment shifts, so too does the region's path toward conflict or cooperation, reminding us that in East Asia, the story is never just about what happens behind closed doors, but also about what unfolds in the public square. As the world's attention often focuses on the rivalry between the United States and China in East Asia, another major power quietly shapes the region's strategic landscape, Russia. Stretching from Siberia to the Pacific, Russia's presence in East Asia is more than just geographic. It's a calculated blend of military strength, economic interests, and diplomatic maneuvering. In recent years, Russia has increased its military activities in the region, conducting joint naval exercises with China and expanding its deployments in the Sea of Japan and the Western Pacific. Its modernized Pacific Fleet, advanced missile systems, and strategic bombers regularly patrol the skies and waters near Japan, South Korea, and even US bases. These moves serve as both a signal of deterrence and a reminder of Russia's enduring military reach. But Moscow's ambitions go beyond military posturing. Russia seeks to protect its Far Eastern borders, secure access to vital shipping lanes, and assert influence over regional security arrangements. It also aims to diversify its partnerships, strengthening ties with China through energy deals and defense cooperation, while maintaining a careful balance with countries like Japan and South Korea. Energy exports, particularly natural gas and oil, are key levers in Russia's strategy, with pipelines and infrastructure projects forging economic links that can outlast political fluctuations. At the same time, Russia's involvement in North Korean affairs offers it a seat at the table in some of the region's most delicate security negotiations. Yet, Russia's role remains complex and at times ambiguous. It can act as both a spoiler and a mediator, leveraging its relationships to influence outcomes in ways that serve its broader interests, whether by challenging US influence, supporting China, or pursuing its own independent course. For East Asia, Russia is a wild card, its actions and alliances capable of shifting the regional balance in unpredictable ways. As tensions rise and alliances evolve, understanding Russia's quiet but persistent power is essential for anyone seeking to grasp the true dynamics of East Asian geopolitics. While military alliances and economic strategies dominate headlines about East Asian security, an invisible force is redrawing the region's map: climate change. Rising sea levels, extreme weather events and shifting fisheries are not just environmental issues, they're emerging as powerful drivers of regional instability. Countries across East Asia are already grappling with the effects. Coastal cities in Japan, South Korea and China face mounting risks from typhoons and flooding, threatening infrastructure, livelihoods, and even national security installations. In the South China Sea, shrinking fish stocks and coral bleaching are fueling disputes as nations compete for dwindling resources. The competition for fresh water is intensifying too, especially where major rivers cross borders, raising the spectre of conflict as populations grow and supplies shrink. But the dangers extend beyond resource competition. As climate disasters displace communities, the region could see waves of climate refugees, straining government capacities and igniting humanitarian crises. In fragile states such as North Korea, food insecurity linked to droughts and floods can exacerbate instability, making already tense security situations even more volatile. Yet climate change also opens unexpected avenues for dialogue. Regional cooperation on disaster response, early warning systems, and sustainable resource management is becoming essential. From joint rescue drills to shared investment in green technology, climate challenges are creating new incentives for collaboration, even among historic rivals. In East Asia, the battle for security is no longer fought solely with ships and sanctions. The climate crisis is an unpredictable force, reshaping borders, rewriting alliances, and demanding that the region's leaders adapt to a new set of threats. While national governments and regional alliances are on the front lines of East Asia's security dynamics, international organizations play a crucial yet often understated role in shaping the region's fate. The United Nations, with its peacekeeping mandates and diplomatic channels, remains a central platform for dialogue, offering a rare space where adversaries can engage without direct confrontation. UN agencies coordinate humanitarian aid during crises, facilitate arms control negotiations, and oversee sanctions regimes designed to deter aggression. When tensions flare, whether over disputed islands, missile tests, or humanitarian emergencies, the United Nations Security Council becomes a global stage for debate, pressure, and, at times, consensus. Beyond the UN, organizations like the World Health Organization, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and the International Red Cross provide essential expertise and monitoring. They help ensure food security, manage nuclear risks, and protect vulnerable populations, tasks that individual countries often cannot tackle alone. Yet, these organizations face growing challenges. Geopolitical rivalries sometimes paralyze decision-making, while rising nationalism can undermine cooperation and compliance. Still, their presence brings a measure of predictability and transparency to an otherwise volatile region. In East Asia's complex security puzzle, international organizations act as mediators, watchdogs, and lifelines. Their ability to foster dialogue, coordinate responses, and uphold international norms remains vital, reminding the world that lasting peace often depends on collective action. While East Asia's security landscape is shaped by military alliances and diplomatic maneuvers, another contest is unfolding, one that may ultimately define the region's future, the technological race. Across East Asia, nations are investing heavily in artificial intelligence, robotics, and space exploration, sparking a new era of innovation and competition. China's ambitious AI roadmap aims to make it the world leader in artificial intelligence by 2030. Its cities are already testbeds for facial recognition, autonomous vehicles, and smart infrastructure. Meanwhile, Japan continues to push the boundaries of robotics, deploying humanoid robots in public spaces, pioneering automation in industry, and exploring care robotics for its aging population. South Korea, too, is a global powerhouse, blending cutting-edge research with commercial success in semiconductors, AI, and robotics. Its government-backed initiatives foster collaboration between universities, startups, and tech giants, accelerating breakthroughs and setting new standards. But the rivalry doesn't stop at Earth's surface. The region's space ambitions are soaring higher than ever. China's lunar missions and plans for a permanent space station, Japan's asteroid sample returns, and South Korea's rapidly advancing satellite technology all point to a future where space is both a frontier and a battlefield. This technological race is about more than prestige. AI and robotics are transforming military capabilities, economic power, and societal resilience. Advanced surveillance, autonomous drones, and cyber defense systems are reshaping the very nature of security. At the same time, breakthroughs in space technology promise new resources and new arenas for geopolitical competition. As East Asia accelerates into the future, the stakes of this technological race are global. The region's innovations will shape how the world works, fights, and connects, making the outcome of this contest one of the most critical stories of our time. While East Asia races ahead in technology and innovation, one nation remains conspicuously isolated: North Korea. For decades, the international community has relied on economic sanctions as its primary tool to pressure Pyongyang into abandoning its nuclear ambitions. But have these measures truly worked? Sanctions, led by the United Nations and enforced by countries like the United States, Japan and South Korea, have targeted North Korea's key industries: coal, textiles, seafood, and crucially, its access to global banking. The goal to cut off the regime's revenue streams and force a return to the negotiating table. Yet the reality on the ground tells a more complicated story. Sanctions have undoubtedly strained North Korea's economy. Shortages of fuel, medicine and consumer goods are widespread. Black markets and smuggling networks have flourished as ordinary citizens bear the brunt of the restrictions. Meanwhile, the regime has adapted, finding new ways to circumvent controls, from cybercrime and cryptocurrency theft to clandestine trade with sympathetic partners. Most critically, North Korea's leadership has remained steadfast in its nuclear pursuits. Despite economic hardship, the country continues to conduct missile tests and develop more advanced warheads. For Pyongyang, nuclear capability is seen as a guarantor of survival, worth any economic cost. The effectiveness of sanctions remains a subject of debate. While they have limited North Korea's growth and increased pressure on its elites, they have not resulted in the denuclearization the world seeks. Instead, a cycle of provocation and punishment persists, with diplomacy often stalled. As the world grapples with how best to address North Korea's challenge, the story of sanctions is a sobering reminder. Economic tools alone may not be enough to resolve one of East Asia's most persistent security threats. Beyond sanctions, military maneuvers and economic alliances, another force quietly shapes the destiny of East Asia history itself. The legacy of past conflicts, colonial rule, and centuries-old rivalries continues to cast a long shadow over diplomatic relations in the region. Deep-seated memories of war and occupation, such as Japan's imperial expansion in the early 20th century, still influence how nations perceive each other. In South Korea and China, the scars of occupation remain vivid, fueling demands for acknowledgement, apology and reparations. These unresolved historical grievances often resurface in political debates, school textbooks and even trade negotiations, complicating efforts to build trust. Culture, too, plays a vital role. From the Confucian values that underpin social harmony and hierarchical relationships to the distinct national identities forged through centuries of struggle and resilience, every diplomatic encounter is shaped by a tapestry of shared and contested memories. Ceremonies, commemorations, and even the choice of language at summits can carry deep symbolic weight. Territorial disputes, like those over the Senkaku, Diaoyu Islands or Dokdo Takeshima, are not just about resources or strategy. They are battles for historical recognition, national pride and legitimacy. In this environment, symbolic gestures can be as significant as formal treaties. Efforts at reconciliation, such as joint history commissions or cultural exchanges, offer hope for a future less burdened by the past. Yet, as long as history remains a living part of national consciousness, diplomacy in East Asia will continue to be shaped by both the lessons and the wounds of yesterday. As China's influence expands across East Asia, regional alliances have taken on newfound urgency. At the forefront stands the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, better known as the Quad, a partnership uniting the United States, Japan, Australia and India. Formed as an informal coalition, the Quad has evolved into a strategic forum, seeking to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific in the face of rising assertiveness from Beijing. Through joint military exercises, intelligence sharing and coordinated diplomatic efforts, the Quad aims to deter coercive actions and ensure the security of vital sea lanes. Its member nations bring unique strengths: India's geographic reach, Australia's maritime expertise, Japan's technological prowess and America's global military presence. Together, they send a clear message. Regional stability is a shared responsibility, yet the Quad's ambitions extend beyond defence. It champions cooperation in emerging technologies, vaccine distribution and climate resilience, offering alternatives to China's Belt and Road Initiative. While Beijing criticizes the Quad as a containment strategy, its members frame it as a platform for upholding international law and supporting smaller nations' sovereignty. The Quad is not the only alliance shaping East Asia's future, but its growing prominence underscores a shifting balance of power. In an era defined by competition and interdependence, regional partnerships like the Quad are set to play a decisive role in countering influence, fostering dialogue, and maintaining peace in one of the world's most dynamic and contested regions. While regional alliances like the Quad reshape security dynamics in East Asia, another powerful force is altering the region's landscape: China's Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI. Launched in 2013, the BRI seeks to connect Asia with Africa and Europe through a vast network of infrastructure projects, from ports and railways to highways and energy pipelines. In East Asia, the BRI's impact is both visible and profound. For countries seeking rapid development, Chinese investment has brought new roads, ports and industrial parks, promising economic growth and improved connectivity. These projects have strengthened trade links, reduced shipping times, and opened new markets, making China an indispensable economic partner for many. But the influence of the BRI extends far beyond commerce. Critics warn that BRI-funded projects can lead to debt dependency, giving Beijing significant leverage over national policies and strategic assets. Some nations have faced difficult choices, balancing much-needed development against concerns over sovereignty and long-term financial stability. The BRI has also heightened regional competition. As China deepens its footprint, neighbouring countries and external powers have responded with alternative infrastructure partnerships and stricter investment screening. The race to build railways, ports and digital networks is now as much about geopolitics as it is about economics. Ultimately, the Belt and Road Initiative is redrawing the map of East Asia, shaping alliances, fueling rivalries, and transforming the region's future. As nations navigate the opportunities and challenges of Chinese-led development, the BRI will remain a central and often contentious factor in the evolving balance of power. As East Asia's physical infrastructure expands, another less visible network is under constant threat, its digital backbone. From power grids and transportation systems to financial markets and communication networks, critical infrastructure now relies on complex computer systems, making cybersecurity an urgent priority for governments and businesses alike. State-sponsored hackers and cybercriminals have increasingly targeted these vital systems, seeking to disrupt economies, steal sensitive data, or gain strategic advantages. Recent attacks on ports, railways and energy providers have exposed vulnerabilities that could cripple entire nations if left unchecked. In response, countries across East Asia are investing in next-generation firewalls, advanced encryption and real-time threat monitoring. Regional cooperation has intensified, with information-sharing agreements and joint cyber drills aimed at countering cross-border threats. But the challenge remains immense. Cybersecurity is a moving target, and the stakes grow higher with every new connection. As the region continues to digitize, the race is on to build not just roads and ports, but also robust cyber defenses. In this new era, security is no longer just about physical borders. It's about the invisible lines of code that keep society running. The future of East Asia's prosperity and stability may depend as much on its cyber shields as on its concrete ones. While technology and military might often dominate headlines, another, quieter force is reshaping East Asia's security landscape demographics. Across the region, countries like Japan, South Korea and China are experiencing rapidly aging populations and declining birth rates. This demographic transformation poses profound challenges for national security and regional stability. An older population means a shrinking workforce, putting pressure on economies and reducing the pool of young people available for military service. Governments face tough choices, balancing increased spending on healthcare and pensions with the need to maintain robust defence capabilities. In some countries, recruitment shortfalls have already led to changes in military policy, including the introduction of automation, the expansion of reserve forces, and even debates over allowing more women and foreign nationals to serve. Ageing societies can also fuel political uncertainty. As younger generations become a minority, their voices may be overshadowed in national debates, potentially slowing adaptation to new security threats. Meanwhile, Older populations tend to be more risk-averse, shaping foreign policy decisions in subtle but significant ways. Yet demographic change is not just a challenge, it can also be a catalyst for innovation. Faced with labour shortages, East Asian nations are investing heavily in robotics, artificial intelligence and new technologies to maintain their economic and military edge. At the same time, policymakers are rethinking immigration, family policy and even regional cooperation to address the long-term impacts of demographic decline. In the coming decades, the balance of power in East Asia will be shaped not only by armies and alliances, but also by the age of its people and the choices societies make as they grow older. Understanding these demographic undercurrents is essential to grasping the future of regional security.